Hello everyone, this is Corey Mitchell. Happy New Year. This is your swing trading stock market outlook for the week of January 8th. Each week I go through the same process just to determine how aggressively I'm going to be deploying capital, whether it's long, short, and just looking at the overall health of the market. So in terms of patterns that are out there, I have not seen much recently. I am willing to deploy capital. Conditions are good, but it's more just a matter of actually finding setups. We had that big run up, and at least the setups I look for generally require some sort of pullback or consolidation or something. So when the price is just running, we don't really get in. We get in at certain points when the price pulls back. And so that hasn't been happening. But other than that, I am willing to deploy capital. It's just a matter of finding the trades. In terms of setups, you can check out the best swing trading stocks watch list. This one, I went through it recently, and yeah, we had these long runs. Some of them did very well over the last several weeks, but the last couple weeks, most of them have fallen back below the signal line, we'll call it. If you check out that and you look at the the average true range strategy, then high momentum average true range strategy, you'll see what I'm discussing about. Current stock watch list, basically nothing on there the last few weeks. There's the odd setup, but when there's very few setups, that's kind of letting me know like we need to wait for something to happen. I'd rather trade in an environment where I have lots of setups and I have to pick and choose between them, as opposed to an environment where there's just one or two. And the reason for that is because if you had a really big run up and you're not getting any setups, and then you get one or two, those are probably the laggards, because those stocks have just been sitting there chopping around for weeks while everything else took off. So some awareness of why you might have lots of setups, why you might have few setups, can just help enhance your trading in a way and help tell you when to be very aggressive and when to back off. In terms of other lists you can check out just for some trade ideas, you can check out best performing ETFs, best performing stocks. These are longer term type investment almost ideas: buy the dip stock list, buy and hold stock list, long-term dividend stocks. So let's look at how the markets are doing. Major indices here, along with the Canadian, Bitcoin, silver, and gold. So this is the NASDAQ 100 up here, and from all of these, we're basically in a short-term pullback within a much bigger uptrend. So we have this overall period of higher swing highs, higher swing lows, and we're pulling back right now. Same with on the NYSE Composite, same with on the S&P 500. If you look at this little point here, you could say, well, we dropped below that, or on the NASDAQ, we dropped below. So maybe a little short-term bearish signal there, but overall, I would just say we are in a correction and overall uptrend. So that means my outlook is that if prices start to increase and I'm getting trade setups, we are still in an uptrend, even though we are pulling back a little bit. So as these indices start to move back up, and even before that, we're likely going to start to see more setups. So this is the pullback that creates more setups in an uptrend, because we start to get sideways movement, we start to get little pullbacks in the price, which then creates patterns that I look for. And so this is a good scenario in my opinion, as long as we don't start breaking below these levels on the NASDAQ, or this on the NYSE, or maybe down here on the Russell, or this level here on the S&P 500. This would still be just a temporary correction in what looks like an overall uptrend. Again, this is not about prediction. I do not make predictions in these videos. It's more just about what's happening right now, what are the conditions, and then based off that, I have rules for how I trade. So if it's an uptrend, I'm watching for setups, and the only thing that would really change that is if we drop below these levels here. And our market health indicators would likely have turned negative before that anyway, so we'll get to those in just a second. S&P, the TSX composite, S&P TSX composite, also in an uptrend. Not too much of a pullback here. Canadian market, lots of basic materials, gold stocks, things like that. They've been doing decently, as we'll discuss when we get to gold. So that one holding up pretty well. But even that, a little bit of a pullback here, a little bit of a choppier trading the last few weeks. Bitcoin, really strong. It has these little sell-offs, and it just really bounces hard back. So that's good to see at the moment. Of course, that could change at any time if just a sell-off holds. But at least for right now, acting very strongly, up close to 200% over the last year or so. The silver, not as strong as gold. Gold's very interesting. This is a 2-week chart, meaning every little candle on here is 2 weeks. And so this period, going back to 2020, we had a peak, came back, 2021, 2022, and now we're just kind of drifting back here. So we have been in this area a very long time, and we're just back at this high of this range. I say in the write-up, I don't want to be the first one into this trade. Basic materials have been a little bit stronger recently, and as gold's been running up this year. But if this breaks out, it's a potentially multi-year move upcoming. So I'll just let that uptrend go. I'm not going to try to be the first one in here hoping that this breaks out. It could sit here for another year, 2 years. We don't know. So it's just interesting, though, that you have this multi-year potential breakout in gold. Silver, not as interesting. You have this little breakout area, but not quite as interesting. But gold is. So from a price action perspective, all these just in pullbacks at the moment for the U.S. stocks. And that's good for in terms of creating setups as long as that uptrend remains intact and these market health indicators stay in favorable shape. And currently they are. Here's what all these mean. This means 87% of all 87% of S&P 500 stocks are above their 50-day moving average. 67% of all U.S. stocks above their 50-day moving average. Just a crude measure of stocks in uptrends. Generally a much easier period to make money on the long side when you have more than 50% of stocks above their 50-day moving average. And if you just kind of look at these periods when it drops below, generally pretty good periods to be out of the market. Like this period here, you have these tiny little moves up, but for the most part, just selling. And then when we're above it, we have these nice rallies. Volume, not important to me at the moment. The rate of change, this is the percentage daily movement of the S&P 500. Daily percentage movement, and pretty calm for the most part. What I'm really looking for on this is drops of 2% or more in a single day. You notice lots of those in downtrending markets. Uptrends much calmer, and we have been seeing that for a long time, and we are still seeing that. We get the occasional little bit bigger drop, 1.5% or so, but none of those big just massive sell-off days, the 2%. So that's a good thing to see. Still indicative of uptrending behavior, even though we are in a little bit of a pullback. This is the advanced decline line, number of advancing stocks minus declining stocks as a cumulative number, and it's just strong like the market, so it's like the S&P. So it's just basically confirming what we're seeing in the market. Strong run up, little pullback, nothing concerning here. Still a smiley face, nice to see. This is up volume divided by total volume. No signals recently. We did have some really big 90% upside days earlier or in late 2023. So that was good to see. But really, I'm looking for these at near bottoms. So if we've had a 10% sell-off or more, I want to see a 90% upside day or two back-to-back 80% upside days. And those generally occur within about a week or so of the bottom. So if you get some right now, a big 90% upside day, that means 90% of the volume that occurred that day occurred in stocks that moved higher. So a really strong signal of people rushing into the market. And we have not had any of those recently, and they're not super important to me up here anyway, but we did have some back in late 2023. So a little bit of a cherry on the cake in terms of strong price performance. Ultimate indicator, how many quality setups there are and how trades are working. This paragraph here. I haven't seen many setups the last few weeks. Even prior to Christmas, the market had kind of gone vertical there for a while if we look at the S&P 500. And when it doesn't really pause much, we had a little brief pause here, which we did get some setups for, and then it just took off again. So when it runs up, we don't typically get a whole lot of setups. So now it's just more a matter of waiting to see if these stocks have a little bit of a breather to form some new setups. And on the bright side, signals that from before worked very well, obviously, because the market had just run higher. So almost everything from prior signals ran, and then we were enjoying the benefits of that, and it just didn't give us the market didn't take a breather to set up some new trades. So it's been a little quiet in terms of setups the last bit, but hopefully this pullback gives an opportunity to create some more. Sectors on the move. I don't usually end up with many utility stocks or consumer defensive stocks on my scan lists or stocks that I'm watching simply because they don't move a whole lot, so they're not going to make the cut. So those ones I generally just ignore. Healthcare moving up. Healthcare was weaker on the 3-month performance, but still positive. But really it held up well last week when most everything else did not do well. And it's the top performer over the last month. Also financials, basic materials, industrials, all doing well on the month and kind of hanging out near the top on the 3-month as well. Most things did sell off last week. Financials kind of in the middle of the pack, selling off the least. Basic materials and industrials also doing okay. Real estate's interesting. It sold off quite a bit last week, middle of the pack over the last month, but the strongest performance over the last 3 months. So really a wide array of sectors that are doing well overall, even though they may have had a little bit of a setback last week. Looking at the 3-month too, everything doing really well. There's a few at the bottom which are a little bit more stragglers, but really you want to notice like a ton of difference between these sectors. All of them have had really good performance. So if we're in these stocks, any of these sectors, lots of stocks that have done very well. So don't have to be too discriminating on terms of which sectors we're in. For the most part, we're in a bull market. The stock market's been strong. Most sectors doing pretty well. So what am I doing right now? I'm deploying capital on long swing trades if I can. It's just a matter of finding setups to deploy it on. And then, as always, day trading the Euro USD, day trading stocks, and you can check out how that's done. Some passive investing and active investing as well. Resources on that. Always this page, if you want to access it, is updated each week, and you can find it under stocks and stock market analysis and trades. Usually you'll see it right at the top of that page. Have a great week out there.